So we saw our key code was 32 for the spacebar and 37 for our left arrow. So now I can go back into my Actions panel and let's look at this code a little bit more. So remember how your event listeners happen? When you add an event listener, it tells your program to listen for a certain event. The first parameter in this function, or the first argument in this function, tells you what event to listen for, so we're listening for the key down event. And then the second argument inside of our function tells us which function to call when this event happens. So this function here will be called when the event happens. So we can put some simple logic in here to test the key code and do something based on that. So we can write an if statement and we can say if our event key code equals 32, which means they press the space bar, then we want to do this. Go ahead and go to and play. And we want to go to and play the frame after where we stopped. And the frame after where we stopped is frame 41. So we'll go ahead and say go to and play frame 41. So we better test this to make sure that it works. We'll hit Control Enter. Our car will come in, it'll stop. We'll hit the space bar, it'll go, and notice our wheels aren't turning anymore. So remember that we got to tell our wheels to start turning inside of this frame. So we can tell it right here. We reference our wheels this way, car1.wheel1. We can tell it to go to and play. And we can tell it to go to and play from frame 1. And that'll start the rotation again. So now when we test our car, go ahead and Control Enter. We can see our car comes to a stop, and when it goes, the wheels begin turning again. Alright, so that works great. So how do we get it to do a wheelie? So in order to do that, we're going to have to take the car, we're going to double click on our car, and we're going to change the final car object's timeline itself. We're going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to nest a movie clip object within this car. So notice right now it's a group, but I'm going to go ahead and hit the F8 key and make it an inner car. And in that way I can animate it along this timeline. I'm going to go ahead and right click and create a motion tween, and right there on the last frame that it created for me, I'm going to take my car and I'm going to lift him up, and I can scrub my playhead to make sure that he's lifting up correctly. So it does look like he's doing a wheelie. In order for this to work right, I'm going to have to add some actions. So I'm going to create an actions layer within this inner timeline. And inside of this actions layer, on the first frame, I'm going to tell it to stop. Now this might break some of my other animation, but we'll go back and fix it. If I don't tell it to stop here, it'll just keep on doing a wheelie over and over and over again. So in order for this to fully work, let's go back to our scene 1. We're going to have to go back to our actions that we wrote earlier. And when we go to and play, we're going to have to change some of this code a little bit. So I'm going to do that in the next video. So stay tuned.